So, okay, I want to wrap with a few things on the foreign stage. So you were obviously instrumental. You went to Ukraine, met with President Zelensky, helped negotiate that minerals deal. Obviously, we saw what happened in the Oval Office, but it seems as though the deal is back on. Zelensky had written to President Trump ahead of his joint address saying that he wants to sign it. Can you explain for us the contours of that deal and why it's important, why it would be good for America?
Sure. So, Matt, I thought it was important to go to Kyiv, have a personal dialogue with President Zelensky in his office, and explain to him the goals of, and it's really more than a minerals deal. It's minerals, it's energy, it's infrastructure, so it's really an economic partnership. And I can tell you, first I'll start with what the deal is not. What the deal is not is one of these rapacious Chinese grab minerals, grab a port deal, and so we don't own anything. We have a partnership with the Ukrainian government for the benefit of American citizens, Ukrainian citizens, and the Ukrainians will provide the asset, we will provide the know-how, more capital, loans through our overseas government organizations, and I really think that we would be an accelerant for the Ukrainian economy. And this was part of President Trump's vision for the peace deal. So when I went to Ukraine, I told President Zelensky, the purpose of this deal is to link Ukrainian people with the American people as a signal to Russian leadership that there is no daylight in between us. And then President Trump could go negotiate with Vladimir Putin, and President Putin would have seen that the Americans and Ukrainians are aligned. President Zelensky put some daylight in between us. I hope that he's done a good job of closing that daylight. And once we are sure that he wants a peace deal, then the economic partnership will be back on the table. And I think the good thing for the Ukrainian people is economic security, is national security. Good thing for the American people is we can have confidence that the money we put in, we're going to get a return on, and we will be part of a free Ukraine's prosperity.
So on the other side of this equation is the Russians. And I've talked with Secretary Rubio about this, is that the U.S. has had very cold relations with the Russians, if at all, for a long time. They've gone after American businesses, right? There's an American-owned company that they've effectively seized over there. But Secretary Rubio said to me that we need to open up and have some communication with them and work with them to kind of get them to not be so close to the Chinese. Is that something that in the aftermath of a peace deal? Obviously today we saw Vladimir Putin come out and say some positive things about the ceasefire that Ukraine has supposedly agreed to. Is that something that you're looking at?
Well, I think it was Secretary Rubio had a great line when President Trump was criticized for speaking with President Putin. He said, it's called diplomacy. You can't have diplomacy without having talks. And Ukraine is a frozen situation now. Actually, it's a little worse than frozen. The Russians are slowly moving forward. And President Trump wants the conflict to stop, and he's talking to both sides. You can't just issue an edict, let there be no war, and he's the ultimate deal maker. And I tell you, when he outlined his plan to me, it was very elegant. There have been a few glitches along the way, thanks to what happened in the Oval. Who knows what President Putin wants to do, but he has really developed an elegant plan and he's pushing forward with that, and hopefully we'll have peace in the region.
And Mr. Secretary, the last thing I want to ask you about here is about China, and I want to do a deeper conversation with you about China in particular down the road, but are they the greatest threat that faces the United States, and what steps do we need to take economically to get more independence from them, decouple from them, if you will?
Well, Matt, what's different about China is historically our economic rivals were our allies. So all the way pre-2004, all the way back for my entire life, investment career, the Japanese Germans, French, UK, the Western Alliance, we were economic rivals, but we were military allies. With China, it's something we haven't seen before. We are both an economic rival and a military rival. And the Chinese are using the growth in their economy, their big surpluses, to build up their military. And they're also exporting deflation and unemployment to the rest of the world. So, yeah, I mean, they are a military threat, they're an economic threat. I think President Trump wants to get the economic threat under control, wants to understand what the military threat is. And I think if we could get a fair trade with them, a good deal for the American taxpayer, for workers, get the get the military threat under control. And I see no reason we couldn't have a long-term peaceful coexistence, but we can't do it with China trying to make these great leap forwards in their military buildup and with what they're doing on the economic front.